Welcome to another episode of Big Green Real Estate Talk. I'm Tyler from Southwest Florida, and we got Chad from South Texas. How you doing today, Chad?
I'm good. Everybody. Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, man, we got, I tell you what, we got a little bit of a topic here today. I will tell you, this is a little bit of a topic I can probably do a little bit of ranting on today. I think so, just based off of some experiences that I had. I think that this is going to be a great topic. And let me just kind of tell you what this topic is, because like I said, this is something I'm probably going to rant on. If I do, we'll try to go through the process or whatever quickly. So basically, it's who makes more money, real estate wholesalers or realtors, right? So if you tuned in last week with our last session, you'll know that our last one was why is realtors commission so high, right? So much money, actually, we titled it. So the whole point is that I'm going to this kind of continues the segment, but in a different way, talking about a different part of real estate that we deal with and so forth. So, Chad, just to kind of start out, I kind of want to hear your perspective before I dive into the first bullet point on this. But have you had experience in Texas with wholesalers?
Yeah, I have. There's a lot of wholesalers in San Antonio. There's different, size wholesalers that I like to say, because some have bigger pockets than others when it comes to the type of zip codes they're going after, and different buyer pools that are available for those guys who are doing the split. And what I mean by that is uh, there's like a opportunity for an increase in the sales price once once they find an owner who's trying to move or trying to get out of their home based off of some unforeseen circumstances. The wholesalers are always there first before the realtors, typically, to find the owners who want to move. So they make their money, basically, long story short, off of increasing the price of what the owner says they want versus, they add what they call a fee. The wholesaler will add a fee onto the sales price, and they'll make the owner happy, and they make themselves happy and create themselves a little on
So,
top.
so you have had experience with that from based on what you're telling me. So let me just go. Let me rewind just a tad bit before we get too far in the weeds with it. But the first thing is you got to know what a real estate wholesaler is, right? So Chad kind of gave that as an example on this, and basically what they do is they go around and they're not licensed realtor. Let's make that clear right now. Well, let me rephrase that. Let me back up. You can be a realtor and you can be a wholesaler, but you got to be very.
It's a very gray area, right?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very. I mean, you can be both, but the idea. I'll give you when I give my story, it'll make more sense. So, what I will tell you is this: is that you can be both, but you got to disclose. If you're a realtor, you have to disclose. I don't know what state whoever's out there listening to me from whatever state you're in. Check with your. This is my disclaimer. Check with a real estate attorney in your area and see what the guidelines are. But I'm going to talk more about my area, and Chad will talk more about his area, which is Southwest Florida and over there, because I've actually talked to attorneys in regards to this. Now, again, mine is not legal advice. Let me say that disclaimer again. This is by no means of an imagination being legal advice. So, but it's very important to disclose. So, with that being said, a wholesaler by themselves, whether they're licensed or not licensed, is to basically find a situation. Uh, it's almost like they're gosh, there's no nice way to really put it, but let's just say they're the big bad lion, and they're going after the hyenas. And yes, I'm thinking of Lion King back when all that was going on, and that's the way I'm kind of giving this. And they were
Yeah.
going after them because they're the weakest of them all. And that's kind of what happens with wholesalers. Now, I know that if you're a wholesaler and you found my podcast and you're sitting there listening to it, or you're listening to whatever and you're just thinking, oh man, this guy's really bashing us, Well, that's not the case. I've been there, done that. There's room for everybody, I guess, at this point. So let me kind of dive a little deeper in what I mean by this. So what wholesalers do is they're going to come out and find foreclosures. They're going to find people that are behind on their mortgage. They're going to find all these different people that have tons of tools, tons of resources to be able to really dive into finding this type of information. Now, sometimes they can leverage a realtor. If they're not a realtor, that is, they can leverage a realtor to help them find this information. And a realtor may charge them X amount of fee to give them said information, whatever that is. The point being is, though, they leverage information, right? So if Chad, for example, Chad has a house, the house is, let's say, owes 100,000 on it, right? But in this
100,000, 100,000,
$100,000, going once, going twice. So in this case, the house is going to retail for 200,000 once it's fixed up, about 20-30,000 into it, right? So let's just say once it's all fixed up, 20-30,000, but he only owes 100,000, but he's also behind 3 to 4 months in mortgage payments.
That's a big ugly butt.
Big ugly one, right? So now what happens is, in this case, what takes place is that basically they come in there and they'll say, hey, we'll offer you 105,000, okay, for this deal, okay, and then we'll pay for everything else, and you're out of your mortgage. You don't have to worry about going through a foreclosure. You don't have to worry about going through whatever it is. We'll take care of it. Not a big problem. It's all said and done. Everybody walks away. They're walking away without a house because they don't have a mortgage no more. They're going to move out and they get $5,000 in their pocket, right? So now here's the thing, though. This becomes a cash deal. So that means that this wholesaler just signed a contract for this, saying, I'm going to pay you cash, but here's the whole catch, or the caveat, right? Just because that guy says, I'm going to give you $105,000 in cash and tells you that this is all gravy, and on top of that, they're probably going to put an escrow payment down because they got to show interest. I forget the term, Chad. You can help me with that, but I really don't remember. There's a term that says that they got monetary value of interest in the property. So anyways, there's that comes into play. So then by them putting it down, and if you don't know what you're doing, by the way, let me tell you, people can put down $100 bill and hold your house hostage. Okay. So, and that's essentially what they do. So they'll put down $100 bill because at that point, the only thing they got to lose is $100 bill. Okay. Now they also have what they call an assignability factor. So what happens in that whole equation here, if you're still with me here, is that basically they're not actually paying for that house. They're taking that contract, that piece of paper, they put the money down, but in that contract, they probably wrote this thing so slick so that way you can, so that way they don't lose out on their deposit, or they don't lose out on trying to find a deal at the last minute or whatever it is. So what happens is they give themselves X amount of days to try to actually find a buyer. So now they advertise the house. They tell that now, because they're offering you $105,000, they're going to go sell that house and advertise it for 120, 125, maybe whatever. Let's just say 120. So guess what? Now, when they go to close, let's say they do find a buyer that has the cash money to do it, then they're going to get what they call assignable fee, which is going to be that remainder between 105 and 120, which is going to be the $15,000 they're going to get for bringing it together. And then what happens is the investor gets it, puts the $20,000-$30,000 in it to fix it up, and then they resell it for the actual retail price. Meanwhile, the original homeowner, They only got $5,000. They walked away from their mortgage because they were behind. They felt depleted. Everything. That's what, in essence, it could work for some people, and it could not work for some people. And now I'm going to open up a little bit to Chad into maybe his experience in that scenario. Chad, have you had an experience with a wholesaler directly, like where something either a positive, negative has happened?
Yeah, I've been in a couple different scenarios, but one I'll use is the the gentleman, he purchased a house from a lady who was moving out of Texas, and he did her a benefit by buying the home. Um, I mean, I guess I could say, I don't know if I could say the numbers yet because it's actually, I can't, no, it's still on the market, but he got a good deal on the home. Um, and he tried to sell it to some investors, and I think I had 5 or 6 investors, serious guys, go look at that place, and maybe 2 of them bid on it to where we got under a contract. They liked it, but once they got in there with a GC, they found out that the wholesaler was trying, his fee was too much. Basically, he overpriced himself out of a deal
Well,
because
real quick, Chad. Not, just because this is great dialogue here. Because I'll tell you another thing that based on what you just said that. So that's another thing, guys. When I was just explaining that the wholesaler gets that set fee, and I told you in my example was like 15,000. So guess what? The seller does not know that. The person buying does not know that until it's closing time, and it's supposed to go, it's legally supposed to be shown on what we call the Alta HUD, whatever, on that last piece of paper that has all the numbers for everybody to see it. And that has to be legally shown. So nobody knows usually, unless somebody says something, plays a card different, whatever, nobody knows what that wholesaler's making at the end of the day until closing time.
well,
So
and then over in Texas, this is where it gets to be a very kind of hazy area when it comes to trying to talk to your buyer. So me, right, if I was representing an investor, I mean, who pays me? Because I'm just working with Joe Blow, the investor. The seller's a wholesaler. Um, where does the realtor come into the play to get paid on the deal? Honestly, in this case of the seller, I was like, you're gonna have to pay me because I can't go influx a price by law. On top of that, that's not how the buyer doesn't pay me anything unless I disclose to the buyer that, hey, you know what, you're gonna have to pay me $5,000 just to buy this house. And typically
was you representing the buyer or the seller in this case?
I was right in the middle. I was right in the middle. So unique because I knew the seller. I was helping him find people to buy it. So ended up found the buyer. So I was literally having conversations on both sides of the fence. I was like, well, you know,
Did you have the seller in a listing contract?
uh, no,
Okay.
that was the problem,
Yeah,
right? So this
so
is
you were
why
just based off of what you knew then, or based off of knowing them or whatever. Okay, I see. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, so yeah, that is a unique situation. Just for everybody listening, and this is check in your area and chat. I don't know how it works over there, but I'll tell you, if I was in that situation in Florida, this is how it would be handled essentially, is that both parties would never even, there would not be an open line of communication between the two parties until I had one party signing that I was going to get paid for brokering the deal essentially. So that's kind of how I do it. Like even on the buyer side, I don't care, even if they want to split it, even if it's in I've had that happen too, where actually, and if this wasn't a wholesale deal, this was just a straight up, let me give you a quick example of a non-wholesale deal that was just a real estate deal.
Mhm.
So what ended up happening is a guy got a hold of me, said, hey, I want to buy this property, but essentially I need to get a hold of the seller. And I was like, okay, well, I can do, because I got the tools, right? I said, I'll do this, right? So I went out and reached out to the seller, and I actually got a hold of the seller, and I was like, hey, do you want to sell it? They said yes. So I brought, and I said, well, listen, if you're in agreement, then I'll create the contract. And in the contract itself, there's not a listing contract, not a buyer contract, but in the main contract, this is how we did it in Florida, is that I just put in there that that they're going to split, this person is going to split the cost of XYZ, whatever that cost was. They split it between the both of them, so they both had to pay at closing time to me off of that, to the brokerage. And again, that was not a wholesale deal, but that was a kind of an example. It doesn't matter if it's wholesale or not. But now here's the difference. So let me back up to the wholesale part. So if that situation would have been, let's say the seller had it, and I'm assuming the buyer was the wholesaler. Is that correct, Chad? Is that right?
The buyer was the investor, right?
Okay. So who was the wholesaler in that mix?
Uh, I guess, well, so the wholesaler was also the seller.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a little different. I'm not following.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he bought the house and then he just marked it up, but he calls himself a wholesaler, right? So he
Oh,
ended,
okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So got you. I understand what you're saying now, because you
Mhm.
were dealing with the wholesaler that had the contract already, selling the paperwork to the investor that you also had. Okay. I got you. So that's why you
Mhm.
didn't have a listing contract between one and the other, because it's not his to list. He only has
Mhm.
the paperwork on it. And over here, okay, I see what you're saying. So again, in that situation, though, that's where you would have had to go to the wholesale. It's very similar to what I did without, you would have to create another contract. Basically, it's a piggyback, which a lot of wholesalers don't like it, but essentially, you would almost have to create a contract stating that they're going to pay X amount to the brokerage to broker the deal, and
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
essentially what would have took place. But yeah, that's it. Gets so, guys, I'm gonna tell you, you out there listening, you hear me and Chad conversate, it can be very cumbersome, because there's so many there's so many levels to a deal. Don't get me wrong, there's some very successful wholesalers out there, and I don't want to take anything away from them in that point of view, because they got there because they hustled, they did what they had to do, and I'm sure they're great at what they do. I'm just going to tell you and I'm going to kind of give my story now, in my own experience. So I'm a licensed realtor. I heard about when I first started off as a realtor. I heard about wholesale, and I'm like, wow, that's a good opportunity to try to do something, right? So I have two sides of the coin, right? And I'll kind of explain this and what I mean. So what I mean by that is that the first time I went out, I wrote up a contract for a house. I think I wrote it for 90. Oh gosh, it was an unfinished house. It was an unfinished house. It was not listed on the market. I found it in accordance to the way that wholesalers do deals and different various things. Anyways, I created a contract for like 90,000 on this house. Okay, that right there was $90,000 contract. I put down only $100 to secure this, right? So keep in mind, I know the lingo, I know how to talk the talk, I know how to walk the walk. I got all the information I need because I know real estate at this point. I just was dabbling in wholesale, right? So I did all that. Once I got it under contract, I then tried to sell the contract. I knew what the AVR was, which is your repair value, um, or I'm sorry, your sell value after the repairs. So my whole point is I got to a point to where I couldn't sell the contract. I didn't sell it. So what happens? The unfortunate thing was the actual seller. I had the contract sealed tight to where I didn't lose essentially, and I end up getting my money back from the escrow, which should, and in reality, if it was a good contract, which it was a great contract, but for me, not for the seller. But if it was a good contract for the seller, he would have been able to keep that money. And then on top of that, I'll go a step further. And basically, he was kind of upset because his house didn't sell as we had discussed. and the only thing that he got was nothing. He was already boxed up things. So my point is I really disappointed him, and I did disclose that I was a realtor in the paperwork. The paperwork was good to go. So the thing about this is that one thing that I learned from this essentially was that I did not want to be a wholesaler, because being a realtor and a wholesaler is two different businesses, in my opinion, because you're going after people and your name is on the line, right? When it comes to that. And that's the way I feel. Your name is on the line. A wholesaler, they live for the deal for the day. They don't care the long-term goal. They don't care. Now, let me tell you another story that involved me being a realtor going against a wholesaler. Okay. A little old lady was offered I think it was like, I don't know, $50,000 for whatever it was. I think it was her house. I don't remember the whole details, but anyways, she was offered exactly what she owed on it plus $5,000 in her pocket. And we'll talk about, oh yeah, that's what the wholesaler offered her. Okay. I come along, me and my partner at the time, we come along and we say, hey, listen, we're realtors. We can sell your house for X amount of dollars. And it was, she's like, oh, okay. And so we closed the deal. We sold it as a realtor. That lady walked away with $20,000 in her pocket. Wow, after paying commissions.
Unbelievable.
And that's what I'm trying to say. So there's a big difference between being a realtor and a wholesaler, because they're there for the deal for the moment for them. We're working based off of, if you go to our last one and talk about what we do for our commission, you'll understand the value that we can put out, right? So that's the kind of thing that is a big difference between a wholesaler and a realtor in that kind of standpoint. I mean, does that make sense to you, Chuck? I mean, that obviously you've heard this. I think I've told you the story, but I mean, that's the same concept. I mean, you got to be honest. It's like, I don't want to be a wholesaler because I'm a better realtor to help other people, because I believe, now this is just my philosophy. I know everybody has their own philosophy, their own theories, but I believe if I help other people, it allows me to succeed in doing what I want to do, and, to be blessed back. And that's just the way I feel. And yeah. It kind of proven true with that one sale.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like, I mean, that's a lot of commission to be, taken off the table. And there's realtors who get away, with being successful with that. I met a wholesaler the other day that he sits in the room for like 6 hours making calls all day, and he's like, he's got people cussing him out, hanging up on him, and he says he closes about 2 deals a month. So I mean, and he told me, he's like, my fee's $10K, and I was like, wow, that. And so he said, well, I close 2 deals a month, so that means what, 120 a year, right? So a productive full-time real estate agent probably grosses about the same on the low end, or we'll say on the medium side, median, and then depending on how high their fees are, how high they can continue that path as long as they want, until they decide to pick a different service to offer.
Yeah. And here's the thing. So this kind of circles back around too, that remember, realtors are held. That's why we disclose in the contract. We have to disclose because it's ethical. It's the things that we have to do. And we're held to a higher standard because we are licensed, and we know, we've been through the school. We understand some of the legal terms. We're not lawyers by no means, but we understand some of the legal terms. We understand what needs to take place for a purchase and sell. All those things need to happen. So we're licensed to do that. Wholesalers are not, I mean, unless they're both, but majority is not. And they don't care. They don't, why? Because it's a loophole that's in certain states are starting to be closed. It's different things, but I mean, for the majority of this, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but they don't have to tell you everything. Like, for example, if I went up to the guy, and I even told him, I said, yeah, if your house is finished, it's worth XYZ. He's like, I don't care because I don't have time to stay here and fix it and do all this. So sometimes people are, but I let them know. Now, a wholesaler, they're not going to tell you how much your house is worth. Uh, they're not
I
going to
don't
even,
know.
well, let me not say worth because I can't tell you how much your house is worth. I can give you a comparable market analysis, but they will not even go that far. They don't even want to tell you zippity nothing because the less you know, the better for them because they can make, get over on you. Which now leads me to kind of what Chad was kind of saying about, this guy you talked about, Chad. You said how much do you make every month, or what is his goal?
20K a month. So 2 deals
Okay,
a month. Close
yeah.
to
So
it.
10K a month. I mean, you're talking about if you were a licensed realtor, you would have more experience if that's all he makes. By the way, because I'm
No,
not
20,
getting.
20, 20.
Oh, 20. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 220 a month. So you're talking 20K a month. You can do that as a licensed realtor, but here's the thing. There's less headache, less legal. The only thing you're doing as a realtor that probably you're spending more money on marketing for your sellers. You're spending more money on different things. You can do that as an accomplished realtor and not have to look over your shoulder all the time. Meaning that if you built yourself, depending on where you're at and how everything works, but I know with Chad and I just kind of, I mean, those out there listening to this that may be realtors, maybe maybe you're with EXP already, maybe that's where you're at. But anyways, just to kind of give you an idea, is that with different brokerages, especially with the one we're with, we can build teams and actually place an offer to help those teams. So I know that being able to help somebody do, again, that goes back to helping somebody to make you successful, whether you bring it to the table. Because if I have enough team, I can blow that 20K out of the water every month. I can blow it out of the water. But with the real estate wholesale, there's a lot more contracts that have to go in place between attorney, with being part of a brokerage, and well, at least with our brokerage, EXP Realty, I don't foresee any of those. I don't see problems there. With us, we can go into a deal, say, here's a referral, boom, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, boom, boom, boom. It's all said and done, and there's not having to worry about certain things. I mean, all the paperwork's looked over. We got people that paperwork coordinators that go through our paperwork to tell us if we forgot to check a box or whatever. I mean, right, Chad? I mean, you've seen what we got with our brokerage. I mean, it's great,
Yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities. Like express offers allows you to uh, submit properties to iBuyers at the push of a button, and then once an iBuyer purchases that property, they may sell that property with you again. In fact, they're supposed to after they fix it up. And so our job as realtors is to kind of help facilitate that. And our brokerage is honestly, it's one of the it's ahead of the game when it comes to the systems that they've created to help us.
No, absolutely. And that's and being a being a knowledgeable realtor on these items and reckon. By the way, I'll be honest too. I do a lot of how to put it. I'll look at a contract that comes in for somebody because they'll buy stuff that's on the market too. It's not always off the market. A wholesaler will bring stuff. I know we talked a lot about stuff like foreclosure and stuff. But sometimes they may see something that's on the market and they'll bring an offer to it, and they think that they can get it. Maybe they only want to get maybe $1,000 off that deal. Whatever it is, they think they can squeeze an extra 1,000 based on the market value. Guess what? They come here and they try to read it. I present every offer that comes on written piece of paper to my seller, but I will tell them and strongly recommend them to or advise against it. For any type of assignability contracts. There is a certain few and far between. And the reason that I say that is that because of I explain to them what that means. And then when they realize that a wholesaler could be taking some of their money that they could potentially be getting, they don't like that too well. Especially if you get a wholesaler saying, oh, okay, you got your house marked for 290, I'll give you 300. But here's whatever it is, or I'm sorry, if it's 285 and they put it for 290 just to try to get a deal, and next thing you know, the house may be They think they can get 300. Maybe they have somebody willing to pay 300 for whatever reason. I don't know. But they would do it from 295 comes out and they're coming out $5,000 ahead. Not every deal is going to be a steal of a deal, but I mean, these are things to think about and things. The reason why I tell people, if you're thinking about, oh, and by the way, wholesalers are the ones that have all the little bandit signs that are on like the little thing that says we buy houses, we buy house for cash, we buy however it is. They always talk about how they're buying houses for cash. And those are the ones you got to really look out for. And I know this is not going to be a very popular subject matter when it comes to wholesalers listening to this. They're thinking I'm anti-wholesaler. That's not it. It's just that sometimes in certain situations, and I invite, by the way, Chad, I'm going to put this out there. Anybody who's listening to this that is a wholesaler, I would love for you to come onto our podcast and have a conversation with us. If you're so busy that you're in the mix of making calls, that means you're not a very successful one. And let me explain why. Because that means you are still making the phone calls. You are still doing all the legwork. You're not hiring other people to do that for you. So therefore, you're still in the mix of doing business. And I'll be honest with you. If I'm wrong in anything that I said on this podcast with in regards to wholesalers, please reach out to us. We would love to have you have a conversation on our podcast because listen, maybe there's something we're missing. Maybe there's something we didn't highlight that there's something there. I don't take anything away from anybody's profession in wholesaling. I think it's there is a couple plays for that. I do think that there's room for it, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of negatives. So if I'm wrong, I'm just inviting you. I know that was kind of my rant. I told you guys from the beginning when I started this, I was going to be ranting a little bit because I know too much about it.
Yeah.
I know a lot. I shouldn't say too much, but I know quite a bit.
Well, hey, knowledge is power, and knowledge is worthless unless you know how to use it.
And that's the truth. I mean, honest to goodness, it's the truth. And if you guys haven't already, by the way, this is, as you can tell or going to tell because we're not answering if you're over there doing it right now. You're probably watching this. This is pre-recorded. I just want to let you guys know that in case you think we're going to answer back right now. We had to do this because things came up, but I will tell you this. If you leave a comment below, we'll get back to you. If you hit the subscribe button and you give us a thumbs up, then guess what? Then you know that you're going to get our video every time it comes out live. You also know that you're going to get on there. Also, podcast. You check out Google Podcasts. I think it goes to iTunes too, right? Spotify and some other ones out there. But either way, check us out. And I think that'd be the most important thing. Chad, give your plug for your channel. Mine, by the way, is just Tyler Triplet. Go to YouTube, type in Tyler Triplet. You'll see my pretty self in the blue suit, and you'll see some other videos on there. But Chad, go ahead. Tell me how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, for sure. So it's Limitless Realty Group is my business, veteran owned and operated here in San Antonio, Texas, is serving all of Texas and also anywhere in the country if you need help finding a home or even selling a home. And I do work with investors. A lot of realtors don't work with investors, surprisingly, but I do, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the journey of learning and being humble in order to understand what's going on around me. And nonetheless, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and Chad, and even anybody who's out there listening and I'll wrap this up with this is that anybody that's out there that's listening right today is get in touch with us. If you are a buyer, if you're a seller, and you've been contemplating getting into the real estate business by becoming a wholesaler or becoming a real estate agent. If you want to become a real estate agent and you want to learn, all the ways of the world, listen, Chad and I, we're here to help anybody that wants to do that. Please reach out to us. Matter of fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, I actually have the online real estate school that's actually down in the plug, and they give you like a % off. I think it's like 30-40% off, something like that. You guys have to double check it. I don't remember the percent. But anyways, if you click on that, you'll go to the real estate online course. And then also, if you do get certified because you listen to this, come talk to me and Chad, and we'll see what we can do for you and get you a part of our team and our EXP team. So by all means, reach out to us. Anything else, Chad?
No, I'm good. Thank you. That's awesome.
All right, then. Sounds good, Chad. I'll talk to you later. And I just want to say goodbye to everybody, and we'll see you next week.
All right. That's it. Y'all be blessed. Thank you.
Amen.